and welcome back to MPE 2023 in Berlin. I'm Hannah Wallace, and joining me now in the studio is Kevin Baker and Chris Jameson from Bank of America. Hello to the both of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be here.
Really good to have you here, back in the MPE studio. And I want to begin our discussion by talking about this idea of a one-stop shop, because I know that Bank of America is joined up between cash management, treasury services and merchant services. So tell me, how can the customer benefit here? Chris, same to you.
Great to be back, Hannah, at MPE. Thank you for having us. And it's great to be here as Bank of America, both our merchant services team and our transaction banking team. And as you mentioned, I think that really provides a one-stop shop for our clients. The convergence between payment rails and card rails continues, as well as post-pandemic, we're starting to see that move away from physical payments continue.
Yeah.
You know, the ECB saw a decline in cash at point of sale. From 2019, it was around 72% of all transactions were cash, and that's now come down to 59% of all transactions. So it's still the predominant payment type at point of sale, but what's really interesting that in that same time period, the value has actually flipped. So the value on card is now greater than cash. And I think many corporates are at a different stage on that path, on that continuum between physical and electronic. And bringing merchant services and transaction banking together allows us to really work with those large corporates and help them move along that continuum towards the electronic end of the spectrum. So that's why we're here together, and delighted to spend time with merchants and the market.
All right, thanks for setting the scene there, Chris. Interesting to hear how Bank of America is benefiting customers through those channels. And now, Kevin, coming to you, what's on the horizon then in payments with regard to merchant services and acquiring? What about that?
Yeah, so B2C continues to be a core focus of ours, but B2B payments are really becoming more important as we talk to treasurers. And it's really gaining momentum in a lot of the conversations that we're having. So cash and checks continue to be a very large payment method when it comes to B2B payments, but their market share, if you will, continues to decline, especially as treasurers really are looking to maximize their working capital and really watch their cost of acceptance when it comes to taking payments. Mm-hmm. That said, marketplaces really became a prevalent way to accept B2B payments during the pandemic. And a lot of these marketplaces are continuing to develop value-added services and different bells and whistles to make sure they keep that market share they've actually gotten. So really, as a result of that, you're seeing it become in step with more of a consumer payment experience where it's seamless, it's fast, it's easy. Mm-hmm. So definitely interesting to see that as we're out talking to our partners.
All right, well, so far you've highlighted a number of opportunities to be had on the horizon, but with that often come some challenges as well. So how are you making businesses easier for your clients going forward? Chris?
I think there's a number of quite significant changes happening in the market right now, not specifically in the merchant space, but you even look at what's happened this month with the ISO migration in the market for many clearing systems target to Euro 1 in this region, for example. And that is a fundamental shift and creates a really foundational bedrock for the future of payments and the future of real-time payment schemes. ISO allows for APIs to go and find information in specific places in the cloud, which again really facilitates this speeding up of the real-time payment scheme acceptance. So I think that's one thing that we're certainly a big part of, and there are some foundational areas like that I think we'll continue to focus on. The second thing, and something that we talked about last time we were at MPE, is we continue to see that around 60% of consumers in Europe use their phone to make an online purchase at least once per month. Yeah. And around 70% of consumers are using their mobile phone as their primary way to access the internet. And those two things combined made us realize that we needed to try and make that checkout experience through mobile even more seamless for individuals, and a better experience for our merchants to then collect those funds. And so when we spoke last, we talked about Pay by Bank and our partnership with Banked. And since then, we've been able to expand that beyond the UK into the EU as well to support merchants across the EU, which again I think is, as you think about those corporates along that continuum we talked about earlier, some are really wanting to push into those alternative payment methods. Better for the merchant in terms of less data that they need to hold on behalf of the consumer, and better for the consumer because the checkout experience is more seamless as well. So I think those are probably two key areas to talk about that we're making things easier for clients. One additional point, which is not directly related, let's say, to, again, merchant and merchant acquiring, is we think about this high inflationary environment that we find ourselves in right now. The cost of capital increasing, interest rates increasing, and therefore working capital continues to be very, very important for our clients. It's kind of foundational to what we do as a transaction bank within B of A. And we're developing a new tool this year which will support clients to generate additional working capital called Virtual Payables Direct. So this is whereby a corporate will be able to pay a supplier that doesn't accept card today, but we will actually use the card rails to facilitate the working capital benefit. So a virtual card is created, we then acquire that virtual card, we convert if there's an FX conversion, and then we'll send a payment out the door. So the supplier gets the payment on day one, and our merchant, our client, gets the benefit of the working capital from the card solution. So that's another area where we're seeing development, and where we'll be going live later this year.
All right, that's really interesting to hear how Bank of America is helping businesses, especially in the current climate. And what about growth then? What advice would you give to those looking to fuel their growth? Kevin?
Yeah, I think one key to driving growth continues to be to focus on the constantly changing technology in the payments ecosystem. You know, we're always faced with change. It's going to continue to happen even more rapidly than before. So that's one critical focus. You've also got new channels that are popping up, like connected vehicles, for example, where customers aren't just shopping in the traditional channels like they would have before. And it's really important to keep the customer first and not lose sight of that, and really try to offer what they're looking for, since they are the customer at the end of the day. And the last point that I'll leave you with is just that it's critical right now to make sure that you're working with reliable partners that have a proven track record in the payment space. It's very important. Receivables are the lifeblood of a company, and it's absolutely critical to make sure that you are working with partners that you can trust. So I would say that those are really some key items to focus on in the coming years in the payment space.
Some sound advice to end on there, Kevin. Thank you very much for sharing your insights, both of you. And I'll let you get back to the event. But as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.